The world is changing, and so is real estate. It's changing in ways that give consumers more control with more affordable options. So what are your options? Hi, this is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. I've been on the air educating and informing consumers for over 7 years now. I'm excited to announce that there is now a more efficient and cost-effective way to buy and sell real estate. Our team at Real Estate Radio Live is launching a new program designed to help buyers or sellers like you in real estate, lending and title. That's right, we'll coordinate the entire transaction for you. So you benefit by working with the same team, saving time and saving money. We'll guarantee you'll not only be working with the most qualified, hand-picked experts in real estate, lending, and title, but you will also save a significant amount of money in all three services as well. Act now and benefit from changing the world of real estate. Call 408-838-9060. Go to reradiolive.com. That's reradiolive.com.
Welcome to Real Estate Radio Live, an informative and engaging podcast discussing everything you need to know about the world of real estate. Your host, Joe Kuchera, provides you with insight and guidance on how to buy, sell, finance, and invest in real estate. He also offers real estate tax management strategies, new construction advice, home improvement tips, and much, much more. And now, to guide you around the world of real estate, here's your host and Real Estate Radio Live team leader, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome in. Good afternoon. Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. Thank you for those tuning in via Facebook. Appreciate the support, the following, the feedback. Continue to do so. Just as a reminder before we get started, tune in. Make sure you can download the podcast. That's why if you can't catch the show live or during the time that we do it, you could follow the show anytime you want. Go to iTunes. Just type in Real Estate Radio Live, and you can download the podcast there. You could always go to our website, reradiolive.com. That's reradiolive.com if you want to download the podcast. Anywhere to find it, enter it on Google search. Anywhere that you enter Real Estate Radio Live, you'll be able to get the podcast. Make sure you download that. That way you can follow the show. We have a lot of exciting news coming up for you for 2018, and there's going to be more and more the next couple of weeks. I think a lot of people are very excited to hear. Just a reminder, if you want to contact me during the week, the best way to do that is area code 408-838-9060, or you could always email joe at reradiolive.com. The focus is always the same. Education information will continue to bring that to you, the consumer. The value of that, we hope, is that our guests, the content, the information that we have allows you, the consumer, to make wise decisions in and around your real estate. Today's topic, I'm going to cover a couple different things in our short show today, and that is going to be one, is it too late to refinance? Rates are creeping up a little bit. The research, the thought, most of us in this industry are pretty sure that we will see rates go up sometime this year, over the course of the year. And I also am one to believe that as we roll into the latter part of this year, into the late quarter, maybe third to fourth quarter, I do think the average 30-year fix is going to be closer to 4.5% or a little bit higher. So we just creeped above 4% kind of on conventional 30-year money recently, and I do see no reason why that's going to move in the other direction. So I want to talk a little bit about today. The question is it too late to refinance? No. Get out there. If there's any change in your plans for your properties, do what I call a mortgage review or a mortgage audit on one or more properties that you have. And take a look and see if you have the right mortgage. What does that mean? Well, if you have a 30-year fixed on your mortgage right now and it's less than 4% and you plan to stay in that property as long as you think for at least the next 5, 10, 7 years, then you're good to go. I wouldn't change anything. If you have a first and a second, this is the part that I want you to pause and think about this very seriously. If anyone out there listening to this podcast or watching this show has a home equity line of second currently right now, as you know, there's no more tax benefits for that. Number one. Number two, as the Fed starts raising the prime interest rate, and he or she will, depending on, she is in the office now, depending on who they elect, maybe someone differently. But right now, if they raise the prime, every time they do that, it will immediately affect your home equity line of credit. So you have a moving target now that has been stable for the last 7 to 10 years. Most people have gotten used to a home equity line of credit that has been very stable the last 7 to 10 years because no one's done anything with the prime, or if they have, it's been very little. That is about to change, and it's going to change in a big way. And I can't stress enough, if you have a home equity line of credit, give me a call, or if you work with someone else you trust, check in, talk about the options. And I'll remind you again, I may sound like a broken record, but it's worth repeating here. The thing to remember is that even if you have a very good rate on your first mortgage, okay, I've used this scenario before. I want to continue to do it again because I want to make sure everybody hears this. If you have a really good rate on your 30-year fix, let's say, and let's just say it's 3 3/4, okay, and you say, Joe, I understand I'd love to get rid of that equity line or roll it into my first, but I don't want to disrupt what I've done with my first mortgage. Here's the problem. That, in theory, that's great. That's a great answer, and I think in theory that would be wonderful. Here's the problem. If you're exposed to a $200,000, $300,000 line of credit, second, and right now it's at 5, 5.5%, 6% interest only, that's going to continue to go up. So don't get so hung up on your first loan that you forget about the exposure on the second loan, because you're really fighting up against a couple of different things you have no control over. Number one, the Fed's raising the prime. You have no control over that. They most likely will continue. Number two, what's going to happen is when that loan matures on the second at 10 years, and maybe you're not close to 10 years, but you do have to look at this down the road. When it matures, if you still have that loan 10 years later, it's going to adjust and it's going to recast to a loan that's amortized for 20 years, number one. Number two, the interest-only option goes away. And then you end up with a loan on your second that is a principal and interest payment that's going to be very high. And the interest rate's going to be very high. The interest rates are not attractive any longer on the home equity lines of second. So, last thing about that, if you currently have a home equity line of second, I would strongly consider that you sit down, think about consolidating the first and second. Even if it means, seriously, I've said this before, you want to look at the blended rate. If you have a loan as an example, if you have a $500,000 loan on your first and it's a 30-year fix and it's a 3.75, okay? Let's just use that as an example. And you love in that loan, and you should love it because that's a great interest rate. Here's the problem. Then over on your second, you have a $200,000 equity line that's maybe 5.5 or 5 3/4 interest only, and it's about to go up and continue to go up. When you're looking at those two liabilities on your property, it's not good. It's not a good financial decision to keep those separated like that. Too many people get so focused on their first, they forget about the liability of their second. If you don't have a second, it's not a big deal. Or if you have a small second, maybe it is not that big of a deal, right? Let's say you have a second of $25,000 or $15,000 or something like that. That's not a problem. I wouldn't worry so much about that. That's something you could probably pay off or pay down with very little problem, maybe if you really had to. I'm talking about if you have an exposure of maybe, I don't know, $75,000 to $100,000 or more on a second. That's really what I'm talking about. So the question, is it too late to refinance? No. Will it become more and more problematic as the year goes on? Yes. So my plea to you today, and I'm sending this message out to thousands of my clients that I've helped over the last decade or so. Take a look at what you have. If you have a home equity line of second, look at rolling those together, combining the first and second. If you're thinking at any time during, let's say, this year or next year, potentially, or any time in the near future, if you're thinking of doing any remodeling, adding on, maybe improving the kitchen, doing something that you're going to be reinvesting back into your properties, now is another good time to go ahead and refinance, pull that cash out, and do that now because the cost of money will continue going up. This is called planning the best you can. Now, most of us, I understand, some people might say, Joe, we could do the best planning and things happen. That's true. Things do happen. I'm not saying they don't. What I'm simply saying, do the best you can at planning now to potentially stave off issues that could come back to haunt you later. One of those could be the home equity line can come back to haunt you. One of them could be if you're thinking right now, gosh, I'd really like to do that remodel or that add-on. I want to pull that $200,000, and you delay and you delay and you delay. And the next thing you know, you think, let's pull the trigger. And the interest rates are 0.5% higher, and now your payment's, $250 more a month because you waited on something that you thought you were going to do anyway. I know this sounds a little bit, to some people, it may sound a little bit risky, but I've seen this happen before too. Let's say we're still in a really good rate environment. I've seen people do this. They're going to do their remodel a year from now, and they know for a fact they will. They're just waiting because they need architects design. They need different issues. There's a lot of things that come into play. The reason why they're not going to start for a year. I have seen people pull the money out now, refinance, cash out at the lowest rate possible, take that $200,000, put it in an interest-bearing account or a money market or something very conservative because you don't want to risk that. That's the money for your remodel. Put it aside and wait till you start to remodel. And the good news is you've staved off the challenge or the potential issue of paying a higher interest rate a year from now down the road. These are things to really think about, to put into place, and to try to exercise a plan and then execute a plan so that you could better put together this program for this, whatever you're trying to do. Take a look at all your properties. Lastly, if you need to refinance, now's a great time to do it. Another one is, what if you're going to move 2 years from now? Some people might say, you know what, I just found out that it doesn't matter what's going to happen. I took a job position, or maybe I'm going to retire, and I know for a fact I'm going to sell this house 2 years from now. Okay? Well, if that's the case, maybe refinance, do a no-cost refinance, and go into a short-term interest rate where you're saving a couple $100 a month for the next couple of years. Now, these are just ideas. These are just thoughts. These are just things to ponder and think about. I'm not saying go out and refinance just to refinance, but the topic today, the first segment, is about, is it too late to refinance? So as I finish up this segment, I'm going to take a quick break and come back, but I'll lastly say about this, no, it's not. It's not too late. What I'm concerned about is 5, 6, 7 months from now, it may be too late, or it may really upset some people if you've waited too long to make that decision. So take a look, sit down, do some planning. If I could help you, remember, get a hold of me, 408-838-9060. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a quick break. For those who are on Facebook, stick with us. I'm going to take just a quick 1-minute break, and then we're going to come back. We're going to continue the show. I'm going to talk a little bit about why not to worry so much if you finance over $750,000. The big stress point lately is, oh my gosh, I can't borrow over $750,000. If I do, it's going to be a disaster because of the tax benefits. I disagree. It depends on why you're doing it and what you're doing it for. So stick with us. I'll be back with you in just a couple of minutes. This is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. We'll continue in a minute or so. Thank you.
For more information on today's program, visit reradiolive.com. That's reradiolive.com.
The world is changing, and so is real estate. It's changing in ways that give consumers more control with more affordable options. So what are your options? Hi, this is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. I've been on the air educating and informing consumers for over 7 years now. I'm excited to announce that there is now a more efficient and cost-effective way to buy and sell real estate. Our team at Real Estate Radio Live is launching a new program designed to help buyers or sellers like you in real estate, lending and title. That's right, we'll coordinate the entire transaction for you. So you benefit by working with the same team, saving time and saving money. We'll guarantee you'll not only be working with the most qualified, hand-picked experts in real estate, lending, and title, but you will also save a significant amount of money in all three services as well. Act now and benefit from changing the world of real estate. Call 408-838-9060. Go to reradiolive.com. That's reradiolive.com.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's topic or guests, just visit reradiolive.com. That's reradiolive.com. Again, your host for today's edition of Real Estate Radio Live, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome back in. Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. We are continuing the show today. The topic, is it too late to refinance? I covered that in the first segment. Now, on our final segment of the show, I'm going to talk a little bit about the infamous loan amount of $750,000 ever since the new tax plan was rolled out. Most people know that in the high-cost areas that's who the most people will be affected. You no longer have any tax benefits for a mortgage that you have that's over $750,000. In other words, you can only write off your mortgage interest for a loan that is up to $750,000 on your primary or secondary property. So when this took place, for some people, the thought was not a big deal. Quite honestly, I'm just guessing, 70 to 80% of the population, they probably don't meet that, they're not in that category. So most people don't worry about that. But when you have people that live in the high cost Bay Area like this, New York, Florida, Southern California, a lot of parts of California, the average loan amounts, for instance, in my financing, the average loan amount's well over $600,000, just the average loan amount. And they continue to go up in a purchase market because people in places like this where the average home is $1.1 million, if you put 20% down, you do the math, you're going to be over that $750,000. So what I'm going to do in this segment is talk a little bit about why not to stress out so much and be so concerned and focused about that magic number of $750,000. And here's why. If you are in a situation where you have a loan amount of $750,000 or less, fine, you're good to go. 100% tax deductions on that interest. Remember, your property tax now is capped at $10,000, so that's a completely another issue. Now, for those that are concerned, and I know there's a lot of people out there, maybe you have a loan sitting on your property of $700,000 or $720,000 or $680,000, or you're right on that bubble, right? And you're thinking to yourself, terrible timing. Terrible timing. I've been thinking about this remodel and this add-on for years. And now our wonderful government puts the clamps on us and tells us we can't write off any tax interest on the mortgage up to over $750,000. And you're sitting with a loan amount, let's say $680,000 or $700,000. And you need about $200,000 to do this remodel or add-on or put together something for your home that you've always wanted to, all the years you've worked hard and lived there. The one thing the message I want to get across today to those people, please think about this in a different way. For a minute, put aside the fact about the tax deductions that you won't get over $750,000. Put those just on the back burner right now during this conversation. I want you to think first. If you took that $200,000 out, now let's say you have an $800,000 loan. Let's just say for $850,000, right? And you're stressed about it because you're thinking, Joe, $150,000 of that money I just borrowed, I get zero tax benefits on. And that's true. But I want you to think about this. What is that $200,000 going to do to the value of your property now and for the long term of your investment? And let me explain. Let's say your home right now is worth $1 million, roughly, in today's market. And you want to put this $200,000 in, and by you putting this $200,000 in, because of the market and the cost per square foot in your particular area, conservatively, once you put that $200,000 in, it's very likely that your home could be worth $1.5, $1.6. It's very likely. I mean, that's not uncommon. It could be worth even more depending on the cost per square foot in the area you live. Don't get so hung up on the tax benefits that you forget about the upside and the other side of this investment 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years from now. An example would be this. Let's just say $150,000, you're missing out on that mortgage interest, let's say for the next, I don't even know, this is just an example, right? And let's say that $150,000 over the next 7 to 10 years, you're missing out on maybe, I don't know, $2,500, $3,000 a year maybe. Let's say $3,000 or $4,000 a year. And let's say over a period of time, you're missing out on $50,000, $60,000, $70,000. We'll just be really crazy about this. Let's say that you lost out on $100,000 worth of tax deductions over the next 10 to 12 years because of this. I don't think that's the case, but let's just take an extreme number. But by doing this, your home that was worth $1 million is now worth 1.5, 1.6 the minute you complete your remodel. And 10 years from now, your home is worth $2 million. So you tell me which you'd rather have. Would you rather miss out on a $70,000, $80,000 tax benefit over the next 10 to 12 years? Or would you rather realize a $200,000 to $300,000 appreciation in your property when you go to sell it or leverage it? That is your money. And I understand it's taxable and all that. I get that. But you see my point. Please don't get so hung up on keeping your loan amount under $750,000 if there's reasons why it makes sense for you to increase that loan amount to improve the value of your property. I just gave you a really simple example. Let me do some simple math too that helps people. And in the Bay Area, most of you are going to understand this. If you spend $200,000 on a remodel, and let's call it even $300,000. Let's say it's going to cost you $300 a foot to build. Let's do some easy math here. It's going to cost you $300 a foot to build, and you add on an additional 1,000 square feet. It's going to cost you $300,000 to add that additional 1,000 square feet to your home at $300 a square foot. It's the cost of the build. Okay, that's a little bit higher, a little bit low, depending on how you look at it, but it's a good number to use. Now, you just invested $300,000 in your property, and you added 1,000 square feet to your property. Okay, follow this. In most of these neighborhoods around the Bay Area, many of them are somewhere between $700 to $800 and even $1,000 a square foot is what they're going for. So let's just say it's $800. Let's just say it's even a little more conservative. Let's say in your area it's $700 a square foot is what it's going for, where the homes that are selling in your neighborhood are $700 a square foot. You just invested $300,000. It cost you $300,000 to add an additional 1,000 square feet. That 1,000 square feet now, right, times 7 is worth $700,000. So you have to ask yourself, and again, I understand markets fluctuate. Maybe 10 years from now, it's not worth that. Maybe 10 years from now, it's worth a lot more. The reason I bring this up is not to instigate people to all of a sudden go out and spend a bunch of money and remodel. The reason I bring these things up is because I hear over and over people that always say, Joe, I wish I would have remodeled my home. I know this is a great investment. I know one of these days I'm going to end up selling it. How can I max my investment here on my property? And I'm a big believer of diversification. What I mean by that is I think you should have some money in the stock market. I think you should have some money in real estate. I think you should have some money in other things. I don't believe in all in one. What I am suggesting is if you're going to reinvest into your home, do not get hung up on this $750,000 loan amount. I just gave you one example of how that makes no sense at all if you're taking a long-term approach or a long-term really vision of what your property could be 10 to 12 years from now. And maybe you sell it 10 or 12 years from now, maybe you pass along to your children. Maybe you 1031, maybe you turn it into a rental and you keep it. Maybe you leverage more money from it. There's all kinds of things you could do. Keep in mind this last piece too before we finish up today. We all realize, most of us know what we went through in 2008 and 2009 with a downturn. We don't know if that's coming again. We don't know when it's coming, if it's coming, but we do know this. Markets are cycles. There are always cycles. Never, ever, ever think that things are going to continue to go up forever. We've been through that before. Don't ever fall for that again. Always plan, right? Plan, but also plan for the worst, what happens. One of the other reasons that I advocate people investing in their property and getting the most equity as they can or value in their property in markets like this, here's the reason. If your house is worth $1 million today and you reinvest some money into it, and because you did that, now it's worth even more. Okay, now it's worth 1.4, 1.5 million. You have some wiggle room there. If you have a downturn, and I'm not saying do this just in case of a downturn. I'm saying that when you plan to invest and you reinvest in your properties, really be sure, number one, what's your short-term view on this and what's your long-term view on this? If the short-term is, why in the world would I spend $200,000 on my property if I'm going to sell in 5 years? I completely agree. Probably not a good idea. Maybe, maybe not. But if this is a place you think, my dream has always been the remodel, put a new kitchen in, add that extra room, and you're going to be there for the next 10, 15, 20 years, why not do it? If you can't, why not enjoy your life, enjoy your home, do the things you want to do, and allow yourself to get that benefit. So before we duck out today, again, just a quick reminder, it's not too late to refinance. A recap here for you. I would tell you though, right now, I have a lot of people calling me. We're working on a lot of loans right now. Here's the reason. People are changing their loans right now because they know rates are going up. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're not sure if you should refinance or have a strategy in place, give me a call, 408-838-9060. You could always email me, joe@reradiolive.com. All right, I want to thank those for tuning in. Thank you for those on Facebook for following us, keeping us in tune, and communicating with us. Always remember, if you want more information, you can go to reradiolive.com. That's reradiolive.com. Be sure to download the podcast. Thank you again for tuning in today. This is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. Take care until next time.
For more information on today's program, visit reradiolive.com. That's reradiolive.com.